Hi everyone. Hello. Welcome to season 2 of MyTake chat show. Wow, I can't believe it. We're back already, right? It was such a pleasure having seen everyone in our last season. And today I'm back with my girls, with my ladies for season 2. And trust me, this new season promises to be very interesting, very exciting, lots of juicy things to talk about and some unique things we're going to be doing differently in this particular one. So stay tuned to this channel. If you haven't, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get a reminder every time we go live. Well, let me start off by saying hi. My name is Adenyke and I'm excited to welcome you to MyTake. And on today's episode, I'm joined by my lovely friends. I'm going to let them introduce themselves shortly, and I'm going to tell you about today's episode. So, I am a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a mom of 3 girls. I work in the financial services industry, so get the opportunity to, engage with different people at home, within my local church community, and I enjoy talking a lot about relationships. And in that context, I tend to engage on various topics, some very controversial. So I always get very excited when I'm with the ladies and we're able to talk about the issues that is important to us. So I'll hand over to Tosi and I'll let her introduce herself and tell us a bit about who she is.
Hi, thanks, Nika. My name is Tosin Omotayo Benson. I am a wife, a mother of 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy. I'm a co-pastor of a church and co-business owner with my husband. And what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about traveling, planning, and so many other things. And so, yeah, like Nika said, I enjoy chatting, talking, controversial issues. We're there for that. So I'll pass over to Tutu to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Tutu Alade Suru. I'm a wife and a mother of 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I'm an attorney. I am very passionate about relationships, especially people using I always say things like, using their brains. So in relationships and not making everything very emotional or spiritual. I like to be very practical. I approach relationship issues from a very practical perspective. Even though I'm a person of faith, I also bring in, practicality to my faith. Thank you. I'll hand over to Lola.
Hello, everyone. This is Lola. I am a mother as well, a wife. I have 3 kids. My professional background is in public health and social services, and I am a family advocate. I'm very passionate about women, all things women, and children. And so a lot of my professional work and ministry work is around women and children, particularly mothers. So that's always going to be where my perspective is from. Okay, I hand it to Faye.
All right, thanks. My name is Faye Barafis. I'm a wife and mom of 2 boys, 2 big men now. They're becoming men. I'm an economic development practitioner, and I'm passionate about my work. I'm also passionate about the intersection of culture and faith, and also always ready to talk politics. So let's go.
All righty then. As you can tell, very, very different ladies, very, very different opinions. We have very strong opinions as well. And we're looking forward to you being a part of it. So do us a favor, while we're chatting, feel free to put your thoughts down there. We'd like to feature what you have to say, what you're thinking about the issues that we talk about. And very soon, one of the key things that we'll be announcing coming down the line is we get to feature somebody each week to be a part of MyTake. So we're going to have guests from our audience, and that's something we're really looking forward to, and getting to meet you and to learn about what you have to say on issues. So watch out for that. So today, the topic is actually wedding deal breakers. And I'm like, what does that mean? Well, in part of what I do, which I guess I don't always, I didn't mention in the intro, is I'm really privileged to speak to different people, during their relationship journeys. Some when they've just started dating, some just before marriage, others after they're married. And, I tend to have a very interesting perspective to how a lot of times relationships form and relationships grow as the years go by. But one thing I do realize, and I've noticed several times, is that when I speak to couples who are having challenges, for example, in their relationships, a lot of what you identify, a lot of what they talk about, they identified it during courtship. Sometimes it actually showed up just before the marriage. And that's where they are stuck with, should we go forward? Should we not go forward? And for so many people, the invitations are out, families are aware, so many things are already going on. We might as well just go on with it and figure it out later. So the question is this the right approach? At what point, when you see red flags in your relationship, even when you're close to marriage, should you remove the blinders and really look at what these issues are and really address them? So a couple of real life scenarios that I would like to talk about, some that we've seen it on social media or some that, people may be aware of. So to get everyone's thoughts on this. So the first one, for me, this is such a gray area that at times I almost don't know if we can come to a yes or no answer. But I'd love to hear what you ladies think. What do you do if you discover? Now, I'm not going to go too much into how you discovered. It might be through a person telling you, or maybe you found out in whichever way, a family member told you that the person you are engaged to has a serious medical issue that could impact fertility or even just your sexual relationship. So either for a man, he may have issues with, his ability to fulfill his wife's sexual needs, or it could be a woman and challenges that she may have that she's aware of that could mean she may not be able to have children. We've seen scenarios where this information came out after marriage, but which can be very challenging. But on the road down, after you're already on that path, what do you do? Should it be a deal breaker? If you find that your spouse to be, and I just gave the example of fertility, it could be anything. I know a particular person who, because of their genotype, broke up the wedding shortly before. At what point should medical issues be treated as a deal breaker? And let me just start off with Tutu, for example, to get your thoughts. I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So for me, full disclosure is very important. So the point at which she finds out and how she finds out will determine, the decision. So, for example, if the guy or the lady was upfront, during the relationship, before the engagement, and they come out and, state their issues, maybe at that point, it will be up to the lady or the man if they feel that, this is something they can handle. Now, if it's about children, I feel, maybe they can adopt or something. But if it's the case of the man may not be able to perform his sexual obligations to his wife, that's very serious. So I don't know. Honestly, it would depend on the woman, but I feel I'll be more sympathetic if he said something way before and gave the woman, the opportunity to make a decision. I heard of a case, true life, that the man had an accident and he was physically disabled, that he knew, and his family, his friends, people close to him knew that he would never be able to, have sex. But he did not tell his wife to be. She found out after the marriage. And this guy is a Christian, and he said, now it's for better, for worse. And he didn't think his wife would leave him. In fact, he was very, very bitter when she decided to leave. I mean, that's a classic case of deceit. So I supported, the woman leaving him, because that's just deceit. That's just evil, So that's my take on this.
Very interesting. That is so you've sort of brought two angles, especially the angle where somebody knows and does not disclose.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Faye, what do you think? Does it even matter? Well, I guess it should. What if a person discloses? So full disclosure, right? You approach the person, as soon as they propose to you, or you're like, okay, I wasn't expecting you to propose. You know how it is when somebody proposes in front of everybody. You knew you guys were serious, you weren't quite ready, friends and family are there, you are madly in love with this person, and of course you say yes, I'll marry you, and then you couldn't sleep that night. Then 2 days later you then say, look, I have something I need to tell you. I've been waiting to tell you this, but I was praying for the right time. I didn't know you were going to propose. I can't have children. Either the woman says it or the man says it. So let's say the person tells you, is that a deal breaker? If someone tells you that that's a deal breaker for me, is that the right approach?
I mean, I don't think that these are things that we can have a general answer on. It really depends on the person. So to point, I think the fact that the information is coming so late in the game is problematic. Even by the time you've been proposed to, it's quite late in the game, I feel. Anyway, these are things that should be brought up, I think more earlier in a relationship. To the point of kids or no kids, I mean, I think it's really a personal decision. What has God said to you on this matter? I know before I got married to my husband, I really felt like God was saying that this is the man that you're supposed to build a life with. So I had that confidence. Now I'm just trying to think of the scenario under which he said, oh, he couldn't have kids. I might have had to take a step back, but most likely I think I would have still gone ahead anyway, and then we would have just figured it out. But I think it really does depend on how the whole thing evolves. Does it come from a place of, okay, this person has revealed it, so maybe it was just something they couldn't figure out how to tell you, or were they maliciously keeping it from you? If it came from a good place, I think you can work it out together. Now, if we look at the broader Nigerian society, can everyone take that? I'm not so sure. So anyway, that's my take.
Very interesting. This issue of seeing things that could be red flags, let's even speak from a broader perspective. What are your ideas? Is there anything that you think can be a deal breaker for sure?
Is that still for me or somebody else?
No, well, it could be for anybody. From a medical perspective, I'm now thinking, we gave the example of fertility. What about if, you find out, that two people have, a genotype of ASAS. Some people feel that even if they haven't even proposed, once you find out, God cannot speak. At that point, I don't want to use the word, but some people feel it's irresponsible for two of you to even consider going forward. And for some people, they're like, yes, we know that this is a major issue, but is there anything too hard for the Lord? So again, I get the fact that there's no one size fits all, but I really want to just have some candid thoughts on what do you think about some of this? Should this really be a deal breaker?
I mean, I'll jump in on this one just because it's personal. So, I mean, for my husband, before me, he was with somebody and they ended up breaking up, particularly because of the genotype issue. So, but then on the other hand, I have family members who faithed it and it's worked out as well. And, so I think at the end of the day, I think we do need to really say what is God saying in this situation. But I'll let the other ladies say.
So, what do you think?
Well, I've said before that nothing is truly a deal breaker if there's full disclosure and the person that is receiving the information has time to seek the face of the Lord or have peace about the situation. But I strongly believe, like Tutu said, disclosure is key for me personally when it comes to certain things. In the area of the genotype, my husband is always saying this: everything is based on people's faith level. For instance, he has never taken drugs a day in his life, so he's always operated on that faith level. I take drugs and I trust God to use the drugs for me. I'm on a different faith level. So on the faith level of Can two genotypes stay together? It has to be on your faith level. And no, I don't think anyone should fault them if they do break up. And if they decide to stay together, you don't know what they've received from the Lord to stay together and how God has. So I don't think it's irresponsible per se. I think it's based on everyone's faith level and what they can handle. I have a situation with a lady who her husband told her clean and clear, I am HIV positive. And everyone around her told her she was crazy. But she says she heard from God to proceed with the marriage. Today, they have two grown children. I think the youngest is about 11 years old. Her and her kids are HIV negative, and they've been together for years. Okay. So she heard from God. Even her pastor tried to discourage her. The family members called the pastor. They tried to talk her out of it, but she says she heard from God. So what I'm saying is, full disclosure, give the person time to seek the face of God, because there's someone for everyone on the face of the earth. No matter what baggage you bring in, there's somebody that God has spoken to that will help you carry that burden along the journey. And as long as you hear clearly, God will not steer you wrong.
So I have a different perspective, and here's my perspective. I have faith, I have all of that, but in this case, some children, innocent children, are going to be involved. So even if the couple decide to go ahead, if they want to go ahead, they've heard from God, all well and good, I support them. But I also feel that they also need to show some form of responsibility, in the sense that, there are other options out there to have kids. Like, okay, do you want to adopt, or do you want to, go to a sperm bank? And, just for the sake of the children, both of you, of course, your faith will see you through. There's nothing wrong with that. Or maybe in some medical case, I don't know if there's medical technology today that they can still decide, even, with both genotypes, they can figure out a way where it won't affect the children. I don't know. But I just feel that for the sake of, it's not a deal breaker for me, but I will take the extra step to make sure that I don't bring an innocent child into this. That's me personally.
It's not a different take. We're saying the same thing.
Very, very interesting. Okay, fair enough. I get that. So that's fantastic. And I think there was a very important point that was made, which was the point of disclosure. I like the way Tosin said it, that very few things between, when you look at couples, you find different people stand and believe for different things. Once people have, part of the biggest challenge is disclosure. Once people know that they're given the option, then they can make an informed decision. And some of these decisions, it's not always yes or no, just given the uniqueness of the fact that people can be at different stages in their lives. So that's fair enough. And I think that's a very good way of looking at it. So let me bring it to something that doesn't really need disclosure for a person to sell you. It manifests itself. The number of times, and I know sometimes it's like we are preaching to the choir, but it's still such a big issue. The number of people that end up in relationships or marriage where, when they were dating, well, let me put it, a relationship or marriage that becomes unhealthy, physically unhealthy. And when they were in courtship, they were dating, or just before they got married, they got an indication that whoever they're engaged to, and in most cases, unfortunately, this is more a woman's situation. A woman sees that, a scenario occurs, the guy she's dating or she's engaging to blows up in a situation. You can tell that, is very, you've seen characteristics of maybe him being short-tempered, but he blows up, and escalates an issue in a way that you could not imagine. Everything happened. He was so upset, there was obscenities, there was, him, thumping on something. I'm just so angry, I'm just so upset, I'm just so livid. And you see this. And in some cases, or in some scenarios, it was not targeted at you. Something else happened, and he was so upset, it took you a while to calm the person down. Some people might think it's a one-off. This was an extreme situation. So if you notice it a second time, the second time may not be the person, maybe they're just condescending in how they speak. This could just be somebody that's badly behaved that can improve. At what point do you see certain flaws in a person's character that should be a wedding breaker? You're going down the aisle, you're preparing for marriage, something goes wrong, a vendor messes up, and this person you're engaged to, it could be a man, it could be a woman, blows up completely, and it took a while to calm them down. Is this a sign? Is it okay to postpone a marriage, to say we need to address this issue? I'm not saying I'm not getting married. People struggle to even postpone. Deposits have been paid and the rest of it. From a practical perspective, what would you say in such a scenario? And is it, are we becoming a bit too sensitive and somebody gets upset, someone cannot even be angry again? You know, somebody can even play with you again. You are saying you're breaking up wedding. When should we be practical and when can it be something we can just address and keep it moving? Lola, what do you think?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because there are several factors that usually play into this someone's decision to move forward with a relationship or not. And the thing is that, you know, when you're in a relationship, especially when you're starting a relationship, there's this emotion that comes with it that gives you like this rose-colored glasses where you see things in a very tainted, rosy perspective, rosy viewpoint, things that if you're objectively, emotionally removed from, and it's happening to someone else, you can be very objective, you can see clearly what's going on. But when you are involved, when it's your relationship, there's a way that your emotions supersede your brain function sometimes, right? So it's like, you know, you see these things, but somehow you think it's different with you, that you have a superhero cape, that you'll be the one that will change that. Or, you know, you'll be the one that will change the person for the better. You know, yes, that person is like that with other people, but with me, I can fix it. I'm that magic pill that person is going to ingest and everything will be all right. So there's that emotional aspect of it. There's also the fact that I don't think we get enough counsel when we're in relationships, when we're dating. I think that kind of premarital counseling comes much later, too late, I think. Like there should be some counsel that comes when you're just dating. And that dating period should have a period of observation where you're really like analyzing and looking and observing and see and talking to say, okay, you know, I noticed this, how, and analyze how that impacts you and your life, moving forward. And I think it is okay to postpone and delay if you see things that are concerning, because by the time you marry, those things, it's not going to go away. It gets worse. It gets amplified. There's an aspect of the personality that any little thing you see now before marriage, when you're supposed to be on your best behavior, when you're relaxed after marriage, those things come out in full glory. And we also in this culture, and I don't know, I'm talking from, African culture now, Nigerian culture, where somehow it's been integrated in us that it's better to be a former Mrs., than to not be a Mrs. at all.
Wow.
So there's some things that we will take on and say, it's okay, let me just become this Mrs. I will deal with this later. It's better than not to ever be a Mrs. And that's, I think, is a message that gets communicated to us, particularly as women, where we're thinking, okay, we'll just manage it, we'll deal with it. Then we enter the relationship and realize, we really can't deal with it. It's more than I thought it was going to be. My life is miserable. But people will still rather do that and come out of a marriage than to think that, if I let this go, I may not ever marry at all. So there are different things that factor into that I think impacts us, and we need to change our mindset to realize that, this marriage thing is not small beans. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication. It impacts you in ways that, it can either make you a worse human being or a better human being. And it's one of the most important decisions that we make outside of giving, our faith walk, is who you choose as a partner, So that's kind of my take on that.
And I'm happy for anyone to jump in. But Lola, you touched on something that, to be honest, just really it was like so loud, which is so true. I think, especially within our culture, you are right. We live, most of us have, almost all of us here, we've all lived, we're in different countries right now. We've all lived in a culture where it's not normal to meet a woman in her 40s or 50s who's never been married, right? Because in most cases, it's, especially where I live in the UK, it's almost like, people just live as partners, so to speak, and they're happy with that. Common law, marriages, that's the first thing. That pressure isn't there. And then second of all, that's also partly because growing up from a Nigerian culture, there's a cultural and a faith aspect to it. So I suspect that if a lot of people outside of their faith could just live with somebody, some people say they're shacking together, people use those phrases, and without a feeling of guilt, or I'm doing something wrong, or I will not go to heaven, we might find more people doing that and not getting married. Outside of that, the culture actually has become to a place where, for a lot of people, you make such an amazing point, I'd rather be a former Mrs. than to be a Miss forever. And that is part of what I think drives these red flags. Because to the point that was made, is it safe to assume a short-tempered person would escalate? Maybe not. But how much of that short temper, or how much of that fuse do you see for you to understand that it's not worth it at the end of the day? And I think what you summarize this whole issue of, how do we deal with red flags before a wedding? There are red flags that should lead to people taking a step back. Doesn't mean you cut everything off, but take a step back. But people are even too afraid of that because they feel, if I even take a step back, the other person feels so embarrassed, they don't want to do it anymore. The families feel so embarrassed. So is the problem just the couple, or should we really be having this wider conversation with parents, with friends, who are like, we already paid for the bridesmaids' dresses. What do you mean you guys are not going ahead with it? So it's like everybody is building this cocoon around people and they can't really address issues. It's a real problem.
The short-tempered question, that is an interesting question too, because opposites tend to attract, right? So usually a high energy, hot-tempered person will marry a cool-headed person. Like in our situation, everybody in my family, we're loud. We debate loudly. We're very passionate in our debates. And our spouses, all of us that are married, our spouses will just be looking at us like, you bring your voices down. It's not that serious, But as we're arguing, we'll be serving each other food and be showing love at the same time. And someone from the outside is like, are they fighting? Are they loving? We don't know what's going on, right? So sometimes I wouldn't say that a short-tempered person would necessarily escalate to a physical abuser. However, it's something that you need to wait and observe and watch and see the interaction and see where that interaction, where that kind of passionate or not lack of passion is coming from. And if you can deal with it, like the ladies have pointed out before, observe before you marry and see, this person has this quality. Is this something I can live with? Is this something I should be concerned about? And have those conversations.
Yeah, I like that.
I think the point that you raised on this, on the family members, the external influence on couples is really important. Because I know a few people that have called off their weddings, and I've been really, I admire it a lot, and I think they should be supported. And I think as family members, we should be proactive. I know that with my family, I've been proactive. I mentioned things, to my family members that I noticed just to make sure. Are you sure? Are you sure? So things like, I think we should be supportive of couples in that sensitive state. What's his name? I remember Pastor A.R. Bernard once said that he spends the whole couples counseling trying to break them up, just so you're sure that, you really want to end up with this person. I think we need to do a bit more. There needs to be a bit more of that support system for couples before they enter into marriage, so that they have the boldness, I guess, or whatever it is, to say, you know what, maybe I need to pause. Because sometimes you're able to fix things while you're pausing, or sometimes you then realize that you're not meant to be together. And that is an important thing, I think, that we need to also support.
And to jump in here, something that Lola said, not having the premarital, my light again, not having the premarital um, classes or whatever you may call it. A lot of pastors have said this, that you go to school to become a doctor, you spend many years trying to become a doctor and things like that, but when it comes to our marriages, we tend not to want to take those classes and and learn rules of engagement on how to deal. So if you know your temper is to blow up or whatever, and you married a cool-headed person, there are ways in which you can learn all of these things in premarital. So it's best for us to, I don't know how it can be a rule for people before they engage, especially Christian couples, to make sure that they take these classes that would help them, form rules of engagement, so that your spouse doesn't think that you're just going crazy when you're shouting, or not that you're necessarily shouting at them, but your temperament or your personality is just to raise your voice in discussions. My family, sorry for this light, I apologize, but my family is similar to Lola's, whereby in our family we are loud, we are, and then I marry my husband, who is so calm. And so he didn't understand when me and my brothers would be going at a discussion, and like Lola said, the next minute, my brother will be like, I need to eat, and I'll go and get him food. So that's the way we relate as well. But over the years, my husband has gotten to understand that, okay, my wife she has a larger than life personality. So, it's not like she's cuckoo or going crazy. So should we safely assume that a short-tempered person would escalate? Not necessarily, like Lola said, but like she also said, these things need to be watched.
So, I mean, I feel that, focusing, I don't want to see it as, someone just being loud, or, maybe when they're upset, they're shouting. So there are instances where some people are really short fused. They're angry and they are breaking stuff. They're breaking stuff right in front of you. Maybe you see them, they're upset and they are squeezing, they are shaking someone's, maybe holding on to the person they're angry at and shaking the person. You see all these things. You can't just overlook and think, oh, maybe they will change. Now, personally, I recommend it may not be a deal breaker, but it is a pause. I recommend you take a pause. This person needs to take an anger management class and then observe them from there. Don't just think, oh, maybe it's their nature to be. This is different from being loud. I'm a loud person, but this person, clearly, you can see that they have violent tendencies. It's just that they haven't hit you, but they've been close to hitting you, or, they are belligerent, So I don't think it's something you should overlook. I think you should immediately pause and, do your research, find out and see if this person is even willing to get help. If you bring it up to them, are they being defensive? Like, oh, this is how I am. How are they relating? Or do they even acknowledge that, yes, I know this is a problem and I need help? In such a case, at least you can work with this person. Both of you go for counseling. You can even follow them to the anger management class and, try and work this out. But if they are very insistent, they are not willing to change, please be very careful, because the next plate they are going to break may be on your own head.
Very true. And I think I just wanted to even put something in there. When it comes to, courtship and dating, it just reminds me of why, if you're a Christian, you really, really need to be prayerful and to listen to the Holy Spirit. And even if you're not, or you have a different faith, sometimes there's that intuition that comes inside of us, because when Tutu was speaking, I just thought of another extreme, and I think that extreme is even a tad bit more difficult. It's the person who is very vengeful, but very quiet. I think a red flag is when you're in a relationship with somebody and every other member of their family, they have a story about why they don't get along with that person. Because I think sometimes some people, when they're really angry, it's easy to be careful of the ones that burst out and break things, but the ones that go quiet and their next action is going to be something on the border of revenge. They're very vengeful. You can tell, you might not easily pick it up from your end, and that's where it is. Because I can't remember who was saying that everybody's on their best behavior during this time. But if you really ask questions, and I think for those scenarios, experience has shown me that it's normally when questions happen around their family relationships. I mean, there are people that have claimed that their parent was dead when they were not dead. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. I know that can be a bit extreme, but I feel that a person who does something, you're like, what, they did something like that? So what did you do? Oh, I didn't do anything. Oh, I know what, and they give you an impression that I'm going to hit them hard. And that's not a one-off. You see that's how they address things. They are quiet, but when they come back, you're like, there's a phrase we all know, that what did I pick? What did you throw? Something like that. I don't have the best way to say it. I think sometimes in marriages, those sort of people also, they're the ones that people at times, they're almost scared because they don't know what they can do. It's unfortunate. You've heard of people that they suddenly, I know this is bordering on, some extreme things, but they do certain things that shocks you and it's too late for you to recover. So I think that, like we're all saying, giving time to a relationship, and I really love this concept, is one I believe in, having what I call a relationship management class before premarital class. That's something I'm passionate about. I know we're all passionate about it here. Classes that we've all taken, because we do this with ourselves, where we speak or we teach to those things. I think it's so important for people to start thinking of, at some point when you go into a formal relationship, you actually you do it with agreement to go into a training of some sort. Because very quickly, I think you can address issues that you're not trying to address when you're under pressure and you're only a few months down to the wedding. That's not the time to really, really address the deal breakers when you see them. There's too much pressure on people.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea, Adenyke. I think that, and it might not, a lot of people, when they hear counseling and things like that, the options just have to be available for them, where those conversations can happen. And you made a really good point in terms of, you have to be able to discern the difference between, for instance, someone who is stingy versus someone who is conservative with money, a long-range planner, or someone who is, just loud and passionate versus someone who is vengeful and abusive. There's a fine line that one needs to be able to, and it takes other people helping you through that and time, because again, as I said, you may not see it, and your emotional judgment will overcloud your thinking a lot of times, where you justify it or make excuse. And so it's easier to be more open to other people's thoughts and opinions early on in the relationship than when you're fully invested after the ring is on the finger, So if there's an opportunity to have those kind of, like, I don't know, maybe, you guys are pastors, Nike and, Tose, maybe you guys can think about, like, ways where, in the church, even, let's start from there before we even go further. Are there, like, workshops or classes or, things where people who are in a relationships, not necessarily engaged yet, we may not, even know they're in relationships, but they themselves know, and they can come to that forum in the church and hear some of these things we're talking about today, so that they can go back and introspect and assess and think about, okay, I heard this in church today. I'm in this relationship. People may not know that I'm dating this person, but these are good points. Let me ask this person. I think there needs to be more of that if possible.
Absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. That's, like I said, that's definitely an area that, we are all looking to, to build more of it, to do more work around that. But you're absolutely right, Lola. And you know what? Let me even sidestep this a bit. There's another mini project I'm working on, just to put it out there, but it's really for couples, newlywed couples. I feel as if the first year of marriage, it's like once couples walk down the aisle, they just feel, we made it, we survived. But I think there's, because it doesn't have to be that formal, but I feel within almost 6 to 8 weeks, there should be some form of what I'm calling post-marital classes, a bit more reserved, a bit more easygoing, but the kind of things that begin to come up when you're up close and personal, I can't even begin to articulate the importance, because by the time you're speaking to people in year 2, year 3, year 4, there's the accumulation of the things that they didn't do. So now they've already gotten in there. I feel that when people hear counseling or something, that's why I have to find another name for it. People just think, oh, we're saying we have a problem in our marriage, we can't handle it. But I think every couple at some point should have accountability partners that is not just when we have a problem, it's actually to discuss the health of their relationship. It's like a health check. The way you go regularly to a doctor, couples need to have a health check. Maybe every quarter, you just have a health check. How are we doing? How are we managing conflict? How are we dealing with issues that came up recently? Something I wasn't expecting showed up with the in-laws. You might love your spouse to bits, but there's some things that when it happens, they have blind spots. They love you, but they love their family as well. And you're at loggerheads. These are things that, really, to your point, Lola, it's an ongoing thing. We just don't stop, right? To make sure that relationships are healthy. But I know in the interest of time, what about a scenario where, just before the marriage, you find out that the person you're trying to get married to has been married before, or they were engaged before. They got to the point of engagement and things, didn't quite pan out. I don't know if you're, for those who are, listening in, what your thoughts are about it. Please feel free to post your thoughts. Please feel free to post what you think about this issue, but undisclosed engagements or prior marriage that broke up, or somebody broke off the engagement. It wasn't you, but the other person did it, but it was not disclosed, and you find out just before the wedding. Should that be a deal breaker? Or if you find out and the person gives you a good explanation but tells you not to tell anybody, or when you're in premarital class, please don't share this information. Anything people tell you before marriage and they tell you to keep it quiet, let's keep it between us, let's not tell other people. Is that a red flag, and should that be a wedding breaker? Anyone can kick off on that.
Yeah, so I think it depends. Now, if it's engagement, if it's a prior engagement, maybe I'll make some noise about it, like, why didn't you say something? It may not be a total deal breaker, but if the person has been previously married and they omitted this vital information, it is a deal breaker for me, or Tutu.
What if it was a marriage of convenience and they never lived as married couples, but they married just for one reason or the other, immigration wise? But what if, marriages now, there's different levels, but what if it's such a scenario, but they didn't tell you before and you just found out?
Okay, so if it's maybe a marriage of convenience, like you said, maybe I may eventually come around, but I'll still be very upset, because things like this are so important. You need to disclose. We're going to spend the rest of our lives together, and you can't. I think it's very important to disclose things like this, but in some cases, some may not be a deal breaker. It may just be an opportunity to pause and see if there are other things they're hiding. But if it was a real prior marriage that they failed to disclose, for example, maybe they have kids somewhere, they're paying child support, they're paying alimony, and they don't disclose. How can you forget to disclose that kind of thing? That's a deal breaker. And, if somebody says, oh, God still told me to go ahead, well, good luck to you. But for me, it just gives me a concern, like, what else will this person hide from me in the future? So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very big on trust. I am very sorry if I cut anyone off. I'm very big.
No, continue. Yes.
Okay, I said I am very big on trust. Oh my God, you break the trust, that I have no need for you. I am sorry. That is who I am. Because trust is my currency. I, tell people that, it takes a while for people to earn their trust with me. So if you, up until the time you propose to me, keep this vital information, like Tutu said, away from me, and then after you propose to me and I find out or stumble on the fact that you've been married before or you've dated before, that is, hands down, a deal breaker for me, because I won't be able to trust you again. And trust is huge for me. Being with you for the rest of my life, I need to be able to trust the things that come out of your mouth. I need to be able to trust how you move with things. I won't be able to trust you at all. I'll be second guessing everything you do. So that's, for me, that's a no-no. No.
Is there a problem with when people disclose things? For example, that sort of thing. If the person discloses it to you 3 months and says, "I'm wanting to tell you this," I know Tosi, you said earlier on, and not to put you on the spot, that once things are disclosed, of course, it's easier. But almost as if you've been in a relationship for 2 years. I've now pitched my tent here. And then because I was married when I lived abroad or whatever the case may be, it's over. There were never children, but you were married. You proposed, you went to court, everything. You lived the life, you shared accounts. Now you've completely relocated back, for example, to Nigeria, to Ghana, to wherever you now live. And then you just wipe that part of your life out. But you literally lived as a married person with this person, whether you told because of what you wanted to get in terms of your immigration papers, and then 7 years later, the whole thing is done. You have everything you need. You're doing well. You've gone to settle, and the person, they tell you on the road down to marriage. Do you feel that at times you feel that somebody has allowed you invest so much, and they did it because they didn't want you to run away? Know me for who I am. Know me that I love you. I don't want this to spoil it. So they feel that they'll tell you the dark secrets, so to speak. Secrets. Remember the secrets episode? They are telling you what was a secret because they don't want to lose you. But you feel the information has come 2 months to the wedding, 3 months to the wedding. They told you themselves, but you feel you didn't give me the option before. If somebody was telling you that I can't go ahead with this, he told me, but I can't. How would you advise that person?
Okay, so I understand that when people get into complicated situations like that, it's difficult to rip apart. I get it. But in the back of my mind, it's going to be, what can I not trust that you've told me or you're still withholding from me? Now, what would I tell this person if they come to me to tell me this? We have to lay a lot of things down on the table. You understand? Because look, the way I would deal with it is different from the way the person would deal with it. I've seen people being cheated on that they decided to stay in the marriage, and I've seen them recover from that, but in my head, I'm like, can I truly recover and trust you? That when you tell me you're going to the store, you're not going to see her again. When trust is a big currency for me, a lot of people don't really sit on trust the way I do. So when this lady comes to me, it's what she can deal with, for the rest of her life, not necessarily what Tosin can deal with. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I have a friend right now who left her husband, and right now she's thinking of going back. Now, I'm there with her, and I told her, whatever decision you make, I will back you up. You understand what I'm saying? I will be there for you. You don't ask me what Tosin will do if Tosin was in that situation. Now we're talking about my friend. We're talking about what she would handle. So I'm sitting with her, walking her through the steps. What can she deal with and all of that? So that's what I will do. Again, a case by case, sit with the person and say, what can you deal with for the rest of your life? What can you handle? But if it was me, trust is too huge for me. You break the trust, there's no dealing with you anymore.
Interesting.
For me, I think it's a neutral situation, whether it's me or my friend or my family. It really says something about the person. First of all, it says something about the person. It says something about your relationship. What kind of integrity do you have as a person to be able to withhold that kind of information on purpose? Because it's manipulative, it's deceptive, it's malicious. It's just flat out wrong. So for me, it's a deal breaker. And if anybody asked me what my advice was to them, I would say, to me, it's a deal breaker. I don't think for you either. I mean, if it's an engagement, it's a different thing. So I find like, an engagement is just like, oh, you were dating somebody before, then you were taking it seriously, and then, okay, fine, you were engaged. Okay. I find that is much less of an issue, and my anger will be more like, why didn't you just tell me? Why were you keeping it from me? But a marriage, I don't care if it's for convenience, for papers, for whatever. it's a commitment. It's a covenant. It's a covenant that you've made with somebody else, and you want to make with me, and then you come and tell me after you've proposed, or like a few. I don't know. It's just flat out deal breaker. You know, I don't know. Maybe if God really comes and says, forgive him and everything, maybe. But it's a no.
I think in everything that I'm hearing, it's the lack of disclosure that is the deal breaker more so than what they were not disclosing. So it's
Lola, it looks like the lack of disclosure and the timing of the disclosure.
Timing, yes. When I first started dating my husband and he made his intention clear that, I'm serious about you. I spilled like a parrot everything from when I was born. And this happened. And did you know this? My uncle did this. And I told him everything because I'd rather him know, make a decision then if he wants to continue. Because I can't live with and I know we discussed this at the other show we had with the secrets, but I can't live with unknown. If he knows, what would he do? Would he stay? Would he go? This is me, or this is all the baggage I come with. Are you still wanting to move forward or not? Yeah. And I expect that in return. Tell me all your stuff. Give me the opportunity to say, okay, like Tosin said, yeah, I can live with this, or I can deal with it, and we'll work it out together. We'll deal with whatever may come together, and we decide that. But don't be springing automatic deal breaker. You tell me after you've proposed that you were married or anything. Forget that. I'll be carrying my bag even as you're confessing. Nobody come and talk to me about anything.
That's a very good one. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything, but that is so, so true. Like I think everybody has said, the way Tosi positioned some things where she said, for her, the trust factor, there are different factors and different individuals put priority on different things. So you must know yourself, you must really know yourself and know what you can handle. Because what is a deal breaker for one may not be deal breaker for another. People can have medical issues and their level of faith. I think Tosi said, and two people can have an amazing level of faith that would cause them to go through tough seasons, doctors have said I cannot have children, and they meet a man who says that's fine, I'm going to believe that with God all things are possible, and the man believes with you. But everything we've said is so true. You help people know what they can handle when you disclose, and the fact that somebody cannot handle what you've disclosed, like somebody said earlier in the show, is that God is a good God, that there's hope for everyone. There's always someone who has the grace to carry what you have. It might take a while to find them, but they exist. And, this then, I think we're rounding up this with the area of, people living a life that isn't a life of fear. I like what Lola said. This is who I am. And if God loves you with all your errors, your challenges, your mistakes, then it's easier for you to open up to another person. And I think, I'm sorry, I know I'm picking what everybody said, but I love something Feyi sort of alluded to, Feyi or Tutu about, just being, and I'm trying to find the right way that it was said, just really putting all your cards on the table, knowing who you are, knowing that, you're not manipulating. That's the word. You can't love somebody and manipulate them and be malicious. We're talking about love that lasts a lifetime. It's not just to become a missus. You want to have a marriage that, when you make decisions, to Tutu's point earlier on, you think of your children coming down the line, not just what you are. So whatever you're doing, that's the kind of matured love that you need. And red flag shouldn't be something you run away from. Run to it, address it, bring it, put it on the table. Somebody once said that, if I was dating someone and the person just even raised their voice, I will make such a big deal about that. Person knows that this one, if I ever touch her marriage, she's one that even kill, commit murder. So the point was that, where you stand is so clear. Don't be afraid to deal with it. It doesn't matter how close you are to a wedding or how far away you are to it. Have those standards. Don't live in fear, live in the love of God, which helps you address issues that come up. So whether it's a red flag, whether it's a deal breaker, no matter what it is, you're able to address, whatever it is that you want your future to hold. So I think this was just amazing. Just can't even pick all of the points you guys made as we round up. But anyways,
I think I just wanted to add on what you're saying, Nika. I think basically honesty is the best policy in marriage. Honesty is the best policy. And I don't think I'm not a fan of everyone bringing their best self when they're dating. I think you should bring your worst self, bring who you are, so that they know. I mean, for me, I always had it in mind that whoever is marrying me needs to know who he is, faults and all, because it's not when we now get married that you're now very surprised. I think it's better for you to just be real, and that includes bringing your whatever your baggage is, like Lola was saying.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. Well, at that time already, it's amazing when we start chatting. Before you know it, the time is gone. But thank you very much. Today was the first episode for season 2. Lots more to come. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us. Our next show is Saturday, the 8th of May, May 8th. We're looking forward to it. Please go on our social media pages. You have some more information. If you're watching this after we've finished streaming live, feel free to put your points, your comments, your experiences, the realities that you found, and ping any one of us. We're all at relationships with Adenyke on any of our social media handles. You can get a hold of us. Chat more with Lola, Fei, Tutu, Tosi, and Jumoke, who isn't here today, but she's one of the gang. And we're looking forward to when we all gather together Saturday, May 8th. Thank you once again for being here with us on the show. We look forward to catching up with you very soon. And thank you. Bola just said, thanks, appreciate it. Thank you so much, Bola. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And we look forward to engaging with you when we have the next one, which is going to be quite interesting. So watch this space. And thank you, ladies. Great discussion as always. And look forward to seeing everybody May 8th. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.